Hey everybody, welcome to another Collecting the King show. This is episode 30. 30. So I've done 30 shows, folks. That's pretty amazing considering everything that's been going on in my life lately. On a personal note, I just would like to say I'm very happy to be here and I'm feeling very, very good. Those of you who are on Facebook and Facebook friends with me probably know I just went through another surgery procedure, this time to install a pacemaker. And it's been 2 weeks now, and I just got to tell you, everybody kept saying, oh, you're going to feel great. You're going to feel great once you get this thing in. I can't believe how good this pacemaker makes me feel, because my heart rhythm has been off for so many years that I felt like that was normal. Because once the pacemaker goes in, it sets my heart back to the way it used to be many, many years ago. And it's amazing because now my heart is beating at that rate, and now I feel like a new normal, and this normal is better than the other normal, if you know what I mean. So just as a little health update, I'm feeling really, really good. Anyway, this is episode 30. And, normally I like to call an episode using a name of an Elvis song or an Elvis album. And for some reason, today's topic is about promo copies, LP promo copies, not 45s, just LPs for this show. And I just couldn't find a title that matched the theme of the show. So I just decided I was going to call it For Promotional Use Only. If you like the show, please hit the like button, then click on the subscribe button, and then on the bell to be alerted about upcoming shows. All right, so let's get going on this thing. I'm going to be talking about the many ways that RCA marked Elvis LPs for promotional use by radio stations as well as record stores. I will also be talking about promotional records made by RCA to promote various LP reissues. First, the question is, what is a promo? Promotional records have been around probably as long as records themselves. A promotional recording, or promo, or plug copy, is an audio recording distributed for free, usually in order to promote a recording that is or soon will be commercially available. Promos are normally sent directly to broadcasters, to DJs, music journalists, and critics in advance of the release of the commercial editions, in the hope that airplay, reviews, and other forms of exposure will stimulate public interest. So what does for promotional use only mean? It is usually an exact copy of the released version with a marking on the cover to indicate its purpose. So now let's talk about some of the different kinds of promo markings. So first of all, in the 50s and 60s, there usually was a very large ink promo stamp. It was usually a big stamp about this big, and it said for promotional use only. I found several of these over the years, and usually it's a black ink or red ink stamp, and it was on the early albums. Like the earliest I found was, I think there was one on GI Blues I found. I also found one where it was on Roustabout, and that's most likely how they were stamped. Now, whether RCA did those stamps or whether the stores, I don't know. But they were definitely big ink stamps that were put on the covers. Starting in 1964, they started using embossed promo stamps. Now, I happen to have one here out of my collection, and I collect promo copies. It's one of my favorite things to do. If I find a promo, I grab it. But anyway, here's an example. This is an original Speedway. It's up in the upper corner here. Most of the time, I think, on the back cover, but I have seen copies where they're also on the front cover. They usually did it in the corner, and I'll tell you why. First of all, they're embossed, meaning that it's a stamper that presses the cardboard so hard that it makes an indentation or an embossed impression of the words. Recently on Facebook, somebody posted that, I don't know, some bootlegger or something, or somebody, embossing other albums, to make them promos. I don't know if that's true, but, you can, if so, there's got to be some way you can tell the difference. But I know this is an original. I got this many, many years ago, and the stamp is up in the upper left-hand corner on the back. The reason they did this was because when they stamped these things in this corner, they had to make sure that it didn't go too far down, because that otherwise it would hurt the vinyl. Because the record is sitting in here, like in this part, and they would press the corner so that it would not hurt the record, and that's why they did it that way. It's not ever pressed anywhere else. It's always on the corner. Now, at some point in the 70s, they started doing this. This is a Canadian tribute, all right? And you can see on the back, this gold stamp started in about 1978. Just about every Elvis release after that, this gold stamp was used for promos. Now, in the mid-'80s, there were variations of these promo stamps. And here's a good example of one. This album here, I believe was 1989 or somewhere around there. And you would think they would still have the gold round stamp, but they didn't. They went to a different kind of stamp, and you'll see that it's a rectangular promo stamp. And this one says, loaned for promotional only. Loaned. Well, that's kind of weird. So that's like they lent this to stores, or they lent this to DJs or whatever, and you had to return it. I don't know. But it says, loan for promotion only, not for sale, ownership and all rights reserved. Well, that's kind of weird, considering all the other promos that they put out in the past. But yeah, that's what it says. That's what it says down there. These are promo stamps that came out later. And this was towards the end of when RCA was making vinyl, just before they went totally to CD. So there you go. We've got the embossed stamps. We have the round gold stamps. And then you have this kind of weird one where I don't know what they were thinking. So they were thinking like, okay, they're going to loan this record out, and then you had to return it. Do you return it to RCA? I don't even know why they would even do that, considering all the other ones just say not for sale. They don't say anything about it being returned. So now there's some other variations of promo stamps, specifically this variation. I haven't seen too many others. I know people have told me that they've seen stickers, that say, for promotional use only or not for sale or whatever, and they popped up on different things. I know on the box set, Worldwide Gold Award Hits, I think it was volume 2, or maybe even volume 1, but it was just a sticker that went on the box, because at that time they were still embossing the promo stamps and they couldn't do it on a box set. So instead they made a little sticker, and it was in the upper left or right hand corner of the box set, usually on the back. But here's another variation that I found that was interesting when I came across it. Of course, this is 1979 and Our Memories of Elvis Volume 2. If you look here, right here is the other stamp. And this is weird. It's kind of an ink stamp, and it's very small, and it's white ink. And this stamp says, not for sale, demonstration. But this was weird, because I found this album that had this stamp on it, like I said, a white ink stamp. But I also found another one, and I think it was Our Memories of Elvis Volume 1 or 2, with a red ink stamp that said the exact same thing, exact size and everything. Now, the big question is, was this stamp from RCA, or was it from a record store? I don't know. In my opinion, I don't think this was an RCA stamp. I think it was done at the radio stations. Okay, so those are the different kind of promo stamps. There were also record store promotional LPs. Sometimes record stores would use store copies that they would mark as promos to be played in the store. Sometimes a sticker that said in-store play was applied to either the record cover or the label. Those were done not by RCA. Those were specifically done by record stores for the record to be played in the store while people were shopping. There were record distributor promo LPs. Now, a record distributor is different from RCA. A record distributor would get records from Columbia, from RCA, from, whatever, all the different record companies. They would bring them in to their distribution center, and then they would take them out and promote them at different record stores or places like Sears, Montgomery Ward's, or whatever. These record distributors okay, sometimes would mark things themselves. Like, for example, Milwaukee. I know for a fact there was a distributor in Milwaukee, and they would go to the record stores, and they would bring copies of records for them to play or to promote the record itself for RCA, Columbia, or whatever. They would put something on there to indicate that it was a promo. Again, you got to be careful about promos because, you know, they could either be from RCA or they could be from other sources. And like I just said, these are two other possibilities where the promo stamp could have been in the record store itself or it could be the record distributor. Now, something very important that I want people to understand, because I've seen this on eBay a lot. And I noticed that a few times people would say, this copy is a promo. And then I would click on it, and I'd look at the cover. You know, there was a cut, a factory cut. And it's not a big cut, but it's just this little buzzsaw. And I think we called it like a buzz cut many years ago. They're not promos. RCA would send the records out to a record store or wherever. Wherever they sold records. And if the record didn't sell very well, the record stores could return the albums to the factory. So the factory would do a buzz cut. They would take this. I don't know what they did. I don't know specifically, but they would put a little buzz cut in the cover, and then they would send them back out to different places like Kmart or stores like that, discount stores, and they would go in like a bargain bin, and you could buy them for $1.99 or $2 or whatever. At one point in time, they stopped the buzz cut in the factories. And then they created the Best Buy series. Here is a copy of Harem Scarum. It's got the Best Buy series up in the upper left-hand corner of the cover. They did this with a lot of titles. They did this with Harem Scarum. They did it with GI Blues, Blue Hawaii. And these were all albums that came out in the later part of the 80s. As a matter of fact, they even had their own number, the number change, because I know the show before last I did AFL1s. Well, after AFL1s were done, they did AYL1. And there were even lesser runs of these than the AFL ones. They changed the catalog number. They put the Best Buy thing on the cover. And sometimes they would put it on the back. And sometimes they would use a gold stamp. They decided, well, we're going to reduce the price ourselves and call it the Best Buy series. And I think that's what RCA did. It's only my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. But it makes sense. Because that way, if they wanted to release a title, they didn't have to, you know, they would look at the ones that came back that were buzz cut and said, you know what, let's just call it Best Buy series and we'll duck the price. And the Best Buy series was born. This has nothing to do with promos, except for the fact that there's a lot of people on eBay that were saying, well, the buzz cut means it's a promo. So let's clear it up right now. It's not a promo. Okay, let's talk about Promotional LP Records. Now, these are records that were made by RCA to promote different records. When this album came out, there was a special album that RCA printed up and sent to radio stations called Pure Elvis. That album is very rare. I think it's upwards of $500 or more. I think I've only seen or had maybe 2 or 3 copies over the years. I had one in my own collection, which I sold. I think I sold it for like $500. So it's got to be worth more than that now. But I'm going to say as a baseline, 500 plus. Here's an example of one that came out in 1980. And this one's a little tricky. This is one of 2 promotional albums for the 25th anniversary album, Elvis Aaron Presley. It's called The Silver Box. It has 8 LPs in it. And it's probably the absolute best record box set that RCA ever did. Joan Deary was the producer, and the box set was incredible. You opened it up, and it had individual sleeves and different pictures of Elvis. It had a book and everything. It was just great. They pressed 2 promotional albums to promote the box set. One of them is called Excerpts from the 25th anniversary album, Elvis Aaron Presley. And what it contains is, it contains exactly what it says, excerpts from the album. Like real brief cuts, as if you took a needle and you went from this song to this song to this song to this song. So it's a little bit of everything on one record, and it's kind of it's not really all that great to listen to but it just kind of jumps from one thing to another. They put out another one just like this, and the cover is identical, and the only way you could tell the difference is at the bottom. This one says excerpts, and the other one is selections, meaning songs from the box set, complete songs. These are actually getting a little hard to find. At one point in time in the 80s and 90s, they were pretty common, pretty easy to come by, but not so much anymore. I don't even know what to estimate the value on these, but they're definitely worth more than $50 a piece. Maybe anywhere between 50 to 100 a piece if they're mint. But the problem is finding them mint, because these were sent to radio stations and they were pretty well destroyed. They're not the best covers, and they're kind of easy to mark up, and it's easy to get ring wear depending on the radio station if they took care of it or not. So. But they're definitely going up in value. So this was another RCA album that was made directly to promote the box set. And then another one that we have, this one here is the promo LP for a Golden Celebration, the gold box as we call it, which was kind of the follow-up to the silver box. And you'll notice that it's got the same picture of Elvis. So this one is an actual picture, whereas this one is more of a graphic design. It's just basically a promo album that has cuts from the box set, and that was also sent to radio stations, and that one too is still a little hard to find. Not as hard as the silver box set promos. Excerpts and selections are a lot harder to find, but that's another one you might want to keep an eye out and add to your collection. And then let's not forget the other promo album that came out to promote Guitar Man. And this was an album called Felton Jarvis Talks About Elvis. What it is an open-ended interview with Felton Jarvis talking about how the Guitar Man album was put together. They did different, instrumental versions of the songs, and then put Elvis's vocal on top of them and kind of changed the structure of the songs to some degree. Guitar Man was actually a really great album. Follow That Dream even did an album similar to that called Too Much Monkey Business, where they took all those recordings and put them together into a Follow That Dream LP. But it was a great album, and what was funny about it was, for those of you who know the story, Guitar Man was actually a song written by Jerry Reed. When they were recording Guitar Man at the time, they were trying to find a guitarist, somebody who played guitar, to mimic Jerry Reed, and then someone said, well, wait a minute, Jerry Reed is under RCA contract. Why don't we just get Jerry Reed? So they contacted Jerry Reed, and he came in, and so Jerry Reed actually does the guitar work on Guitar Man, maybe even Big Boss Man. I'm not 100% sure, but for this album, for the Guitar Man album, they had Jerry Reed come back and redo his guitar work again, which is really kind of cool. So this Felton Jarvis Talks About Elvis LP is really, really hard to find, and definitely worth a lot of money. It also came with a belt buckle. It came in different colors, so it was kind of a promotional thing when you got this LP, whether it was a record store or radio station. It was probably a radio station because it was an open-ended interview. These belt buckles were used to promote Guitar Man, the album. So that's another one that RCA did. To my knowledge, RCA did 3 promotional 12-inch singles. All right, and here's a list of them. First of all, the one that you see over here behind me, this is the promo 12-inch single of Little Sister, the song Little Sister, that was put out to promote I Was the One, the album. Which came out in 1980-something, 83, I'm really not sure exactly the year. It was the first 12-inch single made by RCA, the very first one. At the time, discos were going on and everything. I remember because I worked at a nightclub, and, it was very common practice for record companies to put out 12-inch singles to send to nightclubs, hoping that DJs would play them. I remember when this one came out, they were promoting the album I Was the One, and the reason why they were promoting it was because the Stray Cats had just came out at the time, and the Stray Cats had a big hit with Rock This Town and everything, so rockabilly made a little bit of a return. So RCA put out I Was the One, featuring all of Elvis's best rockabilly songs, and then to promote that album, they put out this 12-inch single of Little Sister. and send it to DJs and radio stations for people to play. As a collector, you would definitely want to add it to your collection. Another RCA 12-inch single, which was very popular, of course, and went to #1 in just about every country, A Little Less Conversation, which was also like Sony BMG, I guess, or RCA, whatever, put it out in 2002. It was used for a Nike commercial overseas, and then it was used here in the United States, and then it became this big hit. RCA jumped on it and put out a single, a 12-inch single that you could buy in the store. But the one you want is the promo one, and it was white label, and it's worth some bucks, and it's getting rarer and rarer as time goes by, even though it came out 20 years ago. Okay, and the next one would be Rubber Neckin', which was the Paul Oakenfold remix of Rubber Neckin' that he did in 2003, and obviously they did that to cash in on the success of A Little Less Conversation. That one didn't fare as well as the other one, but there is a promo too. There's an actual promo copy of it. So as a collector, if you collect promos, or if you're just collecting the 12s, you might want to get the promo of it. You'll find it here and there. I've seen it on eBay and around here and there, but it's still hard to find the promo versus the regular issue. I've heard little chatters here and there like, I don't want promos because I don't like the marking, or I don't like promos, because of different reasons. And people say, I want it the way it came out in the store. Well, to those people who believe that, I say, if you can get the promo copy, it's definitely worth more money than the regular copy. And the only difference is the promo stamp, which makes it more unique, as I said. So, in my opinion, I think promo copies are the way to go. This Speedway that I have here, this is an original Speedway. I just think it's a wiser decision for a collector to go with a promo versus a regular store copy. That's just my opinion. And that's my final thoughts on that. That's my final answer. We now have a new show segment, folks. This is going to be every show. It's a new segment that I'm calling Collecting Thoughts. Not collecting the thoughts, but more or less thoughts about collecting, okay? But we're calling Collecting Thoughts. And these are just basically my thoughts as a Elvis fan, a collector, and a dealer about general things, okay? I'll give you an example. First of all, I want to make sure everybody understands this show is about U.S. pressings. That's what it's about. So I just thought I'd make that clear so there's no misunderstanding. Also, this one I got to say, because it just keeps going on and on, okay? And this is about Moody Blue. All right, let's get this absolutely 100% clear. The black vinyl is only rare and valuable if it's a U.S. pressing. Speaking of U.S. pressings, because I see posts where people go, well, I've got the rare black vinyl, and the guy lives in Venezuela. Or I've got the rare black vinyl, and the guy lives in Canada. We're not talking about those. The black vinyls in other countries are not rare, not to my knowledge. We're talking about the U.S. pressing and the screw-up that RCA did going from blue to black. So let's make that perfectly clear. If you have a black vinyl Moody Blue and you live in another country, it is not rare, period. So, unless you can prove otherwise, just put it in the comments below if you want to. There are some unique Moody Blues, I have to admit. In Canada, there's a kind of a cool one because it has the Moody Blue. It includes the hit Moody Blue and Way Down, which we have on a sticker in the United States. It's actually on the cover. That's kind of neat. And, there's different variations. But when it comes to the black versus blue vinyl, it's the U.S. pressing black vinyl that's rare. Except for the reissue and the AQL. I'm not going to get into that. I'm talking about the AFL1, the very first pressing. Along the same lines, speaking about U.S. pressings, the same thing applies to Speedway. All right, I've seen many, many times where people from different countries have said, I've got the rare mono Speedway. And it's from France, or it's from the UK, or it's from Canada again. Folks, let's be clear. The Speedway mono that's worth thousands of dollars is U.S. It's a U.S. pressing. It's not, if you got a mono in another country, it doesn't matter. If you want to say it's rare and you think you can get more money for it, God bless you, but it's not rare, okay? Only the U.S. mono Speedway is rare. Okay, and finally, my final thought, and I came up with this because it's just a very irritating thing. I've been I've been on eBay. Of course, I sell on eBay, and then I've been looking on eBay lately. And one thing I found, there's two things I found. Number one, I just want to give a warning to those of you buyers out there who are buying off of eBay. All right, I'll read it directly here. Beware of eBay listings that describe a sealed LP as being a first pressing. And I say that because you got to remember, LPs weren't factory shrink wrapped until 1964. The early ones were in a baggie. The 63 first pressing living stereo was in a baggie. So anything from 63 prior to has to be in a baggie. All right, anything 64 and after is shrink wrap. So buyer beware. When you're on eBay and a seller says it's the first pressing and it's in the shrink sealed, it's not. Just want to make a note of that. Also, another thing I got to say, all right, this is another thing that drives me crazy. All right, you've all heard of Mint, Mint Minus, VG Plus, VG, VG Minus, and all of those, the typical identifications of condition. All right, throughout the years. What the hell is high grade? Where is high grade? I don't know. I just don't know where that is. Is it high grade somewhere between VG Plus and Mint, or what? It's a little deceptive. I'm going to stick with Mint, Mint Minus, and all that because I think it's more accurate than the term high grade. So you sellers out there, if you want to say high grade, you go ahead and say it. But I'm kind of old school when it comes to grading records, and high grade to me is in the gray area. It's not very specific. That about wraps up the show, and as I said, I am selling on eBay. I want to thank all of you who have bought from me in the past. I appreciate it. Just remember to leave feedback, and I also want to remind you that whenever we premiere a show, I'm usually in the chat room during the course of that show. So if anybody wants to join in and say hello and chit-chat a little bit while the show's going on, I'll be glad to talk to you. And I've been doing that quite a bit with quite a few of you, and I appreciate you joining me in the chat room for all the premieres. On behalf of Nipper, I'm out of here. So don't forget to send me your inquiries and want lists to collectingtheking@gmail.com for pricing, shipping, and payment details. We have over 1,000 Elvis 45 CDs and LPs in stock, as well as RCA promotional items, sheet music, authentic Las Vegas and tour souvenirs, and more. We don't have a list or catalog available, which is why we encourage you to send inquiries and want lists. If we don't have something you're looking for, we might be able to find it for you. So don't forget to contact us at collectingtheking@gmail.com.